but we're going to have some fun. He's definitely the GOAT because he's already won one. And you can see he's been here a lot of times already, and he's young. I mean, this is a special moment for me. This has never happened, Scottsdale, Arizona, where I get Dan, Swaggo, RC, SA. Let's go.
They let us out the house.
I'm like a pig
just
and
jumped
you know
off the porch, man.
On the set together.
My goodness.
I am honored.
It's so
My
good.
boys.
This is like First Take Live.
My boys.
It is.
Yeah. Wait, we just need Laura Rutledge on this side, and then Amina Kimes, and we're all good. All right, guys. Tell me this. I'm going to start with you, Daddy Boy. Could Patrick Mahomes catch Tom Brady for GOAT status? 7-ring Tom Brady.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We only associate the quarterback position with, well, how many championships do you win? And then you could be in that GOAT conversation. The reality is Tom's got 7, and that's going to be incredibly difficult to catch for any quarterback. But we can watch the guy play, and we can see the accomplishments. In his first 5 years as a starter, he's gone to the AFC Championship game every single time. He's gone to the Super Bowl 3 out of the last 4 years. He's got 2 regular season MVPs, and he's got a Super Bowl MVP. If the next 5 years look like the first 5, we're absolutely having the conversation of him chasing down Tom Brady as the greatest of all time. I don't know if the Super Bowls are going to add up to 7. They don't need to for me, though.
Heck no.
We got to get rid of that because this is not golf. It's not, like, this is the most dependent position in sports. You can be the greatest of all time in football at that spot and not have the 6 or 7 Super Bowls
But
needed.
how many do you have to have them? Give me
I think
a
he's
number.
probably got to win 4 to get into that conversation along
So
with
that's
the
not chump
individual.
change.
Thank you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification, Mom.
Yes. you're
Right, but he's
welcome.
been to the AFC title 5 games in a row, 5 times in a row.
So
It's
if
not
he
like
gets 4 rings,
he's probably going to, yes,
could
as
be-
long as the individual accomplishments continue to rack up. Multiple MVPs, they're going to the Super Bowl, into the AFC championship games, absolutely.
It can't just be one. Like, that's the answer to the question.
Yeah.
It can't just be one.
You
It
know
won't.
that.
But that's the thing. Like, Patrick Mahomes is doing things in his first 5 years as a
We've
starter
never
in
seen
the NFL that we've never seen, right? So rightfully so, we have a conversation about trajectory. But the trajectory will stop being talked about if he's like someone that's in Green Bay 13 years in a row where you don't get to the game and win the game, right? If Aaron Rodgers had another Super Bowl, you could make a legitimate argument that he's the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. No, Dan. You can make the legitimate argument based on what we've seen him do from a talent level. That's the only reason we're talking about Mahomes right now. That's the only reason we don't say Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT right now. It's because he doesn't have at least those 3.
He hasn't had enough time.
But RC, that's my point. Think about Aaron Rodgers sitting here with 3 to 4 Super Bowls right now. Would you have Tom Brady the best
3 to
quarterback of all
4
time?
is a different cover.
Would you have him the
I'd
best?
still put Tom Brady as the greatest of all
Okay,
time.
so here we are.
They're doing the show by themselves.
No,
It's very-
arguing
with each other.
I'm talking
Ryan,
about.
we're used to that when Stephen A's in LA.
We
He
just
forgets
talked
we're
about.
there.
I just
New
talked
York.
about that with Stephen A. The conversation based on your individual talent at some point shifts to championship.
Of course.
But you got to earn that right to be talked about in ring chasing as opposed to
This
your
is
talent.
uncomfortable when Stephen A is too quiet. Okay, when I haven't even heard him say
the
a word.
looks he's giving me right
I
now.
forgot you were even on the show.
Couple
I mean,
well,
what's
first of all,
happening?
that's impossible.
I'm
That's impossible.
joking.
That's impossible. That's number one. Number two, I find it interesting that you would say that. But that's another day. What I would say to you is this. What I would say to you is this, okay? Let's be clear about something.
you,
all right?
man.
Let's be clear about something here, all right? No, he doesn't have to win 7 championships, okay? But let's understand, it's not just about the number. It's how you perform when it counts.
Yep.
See, we don't say that enough. You got some people that win Super Bowl championships and they weren't that big of a factor.
I agree.
But the team they had around them showed up and produced. So what I'm saying is, when we look at Patrick Mahomes, and we're going to put him on that level, which obviously he's the closest one to it when we look at how material he is, the reality is that on the biggest stage, you got to show up. And that, to me, is what we have to pay attention to. It doesn't have to be about 7 Super Bowls to 4 or 5 or whatever it is. But what it does have to be is, I showed up, and if I got 4, but I played lights out 4 of those times, and I'm the biggest reason why we got it done and what have you, that's when the conversation is valid.
Now, the big thing is this, right? There's 2 reasons to have this conversation. A quarterback has immense talent and success extremely early, and that doesn't necessarily need Super Bowls. Now, think about a quarterback that goes on the slow grind, and we start to really recognize him as one of the greats in his early 30s. The only way he gets into that conversation is by winning Super Bowls late and starting to amass those numbers. Patrick Mahomes is in this conversation because the first time we saw him play, we were like, this is different, right? And then the next year, you win the MVP as a first-year starter, and you go to the Super Bowl, and you win the Super Bowl, and then you're back again. And so now the conversation starts to be, we believe, based on the eye test, based on the film, he's a better individual quarterback than Tom Brady.
Okay.
Period, point blank.
Right.
If you had to draft one of these guys, even knowing what Tom Brady finished as, you take Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
I believe everybody would do that. So that conversation is done.
Right.
And now the conversation is going to go, does his individual play equal team success in the way that we categorize the GOAT as it becomes to the position?
Yes.
For him, it doesn't have to equal 7 championships.
Yeah.
The reason it had to get that high for Tom is because we didn't think he was the most talented. We know that Patrick Mahomes is the most talent. And the way they win the Super Bowl, Stephen A., is if that talent shows up in the big game.
And he's more responsible for it.
So, but here's the thing.
Very interesting point that he just made.
Two things.
It
Here's the
seems like you're
reality.
taking it personal.
I mean, I'm not. I mean,
Y'all are so petty. I love it. Go ahead, Dawes.
All right, Jay, Will, my dog,
here's
though,
my
man. I love
thing.
Jay.
Here's my thing.
that's my brother.
The issue I have with the whole quarterback win thing is this.
Yeah.
How many Hall of Famers on defense did Tom Brady have on his team?
A bunch of them.
I mean,
Seymour,
Richard Seymour,
Ty
Teddy
Law.
Bruschi might be in that
Ty Law,
conversation.
McGinnis.
Ty Law, Willie.
Yep.
I mean, Vince Wilfork. I mean, he played on teams that had tremendous amounts of talent. Chris Jones might become a Hall of Famer on the defensive side of the football for the Kansas City Chiefs. But that's why I sit here and say, we have to remove ourselves from that. And the second thing is this, I think that guys that were really good quarterbacks and some had peaks of greatness need the Super Bowls to get into that conversation.
Exactly what you thought you were going to do with Carson Wentz, and we see they had to rebuild from that.
Why wouldn't they be the team to beat in the NFC when you look at the state of the conference going forward?
The 49ers would have to get a freakazoid at quarterback. That's the only thing right now that's holding it up. Now, there are question marks with the Eagles, how much money are you going to pay Jalen Hurts? That's going to be a part of this conversation because they've gone to the Super Bowl twice in 6 seasons on rookie quarterback deals, and it sounds like they're going to pay him as they should. How much are they going to use him as a runner going forward? He has the shoulder injury. It almost derailed their season. It might impact the Super Bowl because he still doesn't look healthy. How long do guys like Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson play? But it would be a disappointment if they don't become one. Guys, this is a team that has the best offensive line in football. They have the best offensive line coach in football. They have become notorious for developing quarterbacks and offensive line. They got A.J. Brown, who's still a stud young player. Devontae Smith, stud young player. Dallas Goedert, stud young player. Yep. They're young at certain parts on the defensive side of the football. They have 2 first-round picks and a general manager that remade their roster in 2 years.
Aaron Rodgers won Super Bowl. Peyton Manning won Super Bowl where he was actually the dude and didn't win the last one until he was about to leave because of the different
Peyton Manning had to deal with Tom Brady.
It's a dependent position, Ryan.
So
no, but the NFC piece of this is a big part of the conversation because all of the superstars, the murderers row of young quarterbacks are all in the AFC.
But things change so quickly. I mean, we do this every year with the Super Bowl teams. Can it become a dynasty? The only one that's done it in recent memory is the Chiefs,
right,
who are playing against the Eagles this week. So, yeah, it's hard to say. Everything we've learned about Jalen Hurts since he was in college convinces us he can continue to ascend and to be even a better player than he is now, which is wonderful. But their roster's got some age on it. They're a little tight against the salary cap. They have some challenges.
So if I changed the question a little and I said 1 year from, I forget where the Super Bowl is a year from now, but
Vegas, Las Vegas.
When we are all sitting here 52 Fridays from now, and I'm telling you one of these 2 teams is going to be back, the Eagles or the Chiefs, which one would you tell me it's going to be?
The Chiefs.
Because of Mahomes.
Yeah.
So I mean, that would mean they're likelier because of the quarterback than the Eagles to have a dynasty.
All those rookies that are playing, I mean, the Chiefs are getting contributions from young players at a higher level than you think.
Show me the dynasty after you pay your guy.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes.
I like that.
And the Chiefs are closer to being the dynasty. And when I say dynasty, actually winning championships, Show me that information after you pay your guy. Like the Eagles are in glory land right now, and they're actually ahead of schedule. Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie did a phenomenal job of putting the roster together. Jalen Hurts was more than anybody thought that he would be, right? So, yes, in this window right now, as we sit here and they about to play for a Super Bowl Sunday, it's a very convenient conversation. But we've seen what happens after you give the $250 million. We've seen what happens when you have to make certain roster decisions. Right now, they got a $100 million quarterback. They got an offensive line that you would love to have all back. But you don't think the other 31 teams are going to want some of those guys. So it's a lot of things that have to transpire in order for that to happen. The fact that Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs